One day I fell, broke my arm, back and got wounded in my head. Guys who said these do something terrible to get their refreshment of classic fried chicken or fried caterpillars. Hi, my name is Masha. I've been a photographer for 11 years and a wedding videographer for 5 years. So, do you want to listen to it? Growing up, I loved sports, especially parkour, and I didn't know anything about photography. One day, I fell, broke my arm, back and got wounded in my head. I got a plastic cast and the doctor told me to stay at home, but I couldn't stay at home. I wanted to train. So instead, I was walking around with a soap dish taking pictures of the guys doing somersaults and other acrobatics. After some time, I bought my first camera, Nikon D5000 crop camera for beginners, and I started to shoot with it. A month later, my friend invited me to a wedding saying, "Perhaps you could take a photo. I know you have a good cam." That was how it all started. I photographed them in what it turned out to be a particularly interesting activity for me. Then there was another wedding of friends, and they are no longer friends. I worked first as a photographer assistant, took a couple of classes before starting to shoot independently. Once I received an order from my friend who wrote that his nephews were getting married. He offered that I could come and take photos. After filming his nephew's wedding, he wrote to me a year later that he was getting married too and he would like me to take the wedding photos. I asked him where, and to my greatest surprise he said, "Congo!" I first looked for where it was, and it turned out that the wedding would be in his homeland. Despite living all his adult life in Europe, he decided to do his wedding in his home country. The bride was also a Congolese, and all the family and all the friends were Congolese. I flew there with my operator, although we knew that it was a dangerous country. When we arrived in Congo, many people want us not to do anything on our own over there. Some well-meaning people met us at the airport and rented an apartment for us. We lived in a house with a high fence and went out to the city only for a walk or to buy food. We never went further. Life in Congo was quite expensive. The last straw was the airport told us to pay a fee. "What a fee?" we asked. They said it was an exit fee for leaving the country. There was an exit registration on the first day. Overall, it was similar to European wedding, an arc, a table for painting, chairs, everything under the open air. The only difference was the artificial flower decorations. I was a bit curious, so I asked why the flowers were artificial. Someone told me that the weather is near 40 degrees, which means that fresh flowers would die in 5 minutes and the ceremonial lasted for an hour. The solemnization lasts 5 or 10 minutes, but they read the family code for an hour. On the second day, there was a party and dancing. Unlike the Europe, it was only a wedding, a walk, and everyone goes to the hotel or home to relax. Everyone comes back again when the night falls, when the heat subsides, and you can walk, drink, and dance. By the way, the wedding attracted over 300 guests. It was great by the standards, but it was quite short for me. Unlike Russia, where you come to a completely set even venue, the banquet hall and the table section was empty. A couple of hours before they set up Swiss table and guest queue went up with plates to get their refreshment of classic fried chicken or fried caterpillars. And now the terrible thing was then it was time to congratulate the celebrants. Large groups and families of about 10-15 people came out dancing. Most families gave a set of chairs as a gift, with each member carrying a chair. Sometimes they gave funny things like cans of powdered milk and huge cans of chocolate. They trust my work. They do not pay attention or ask you to take pictures of them this way or that. We also had the third day of shooting. We went on safari, but it was quite different from what we saw in the movies where lions were walking around. It was quiet there. We saw bulls and took some pictures with zebras. It was our initiative to photograph the bride and groom in national outfits. They didn't wear European outfits but remained in bright national outfits as we walked and took pictures. I often get clients from Instagram asking me if I can shoot at certain places. I answer they can shoot there without hesitation. I receive orders from my foreign agencies sometimes, but it doesn't come often. I get most orders from friends. For instance, I flew to Switzerland when the photographer I knew wrote to me telling that his trip was cancelled and he was looking for a replacement photographer to shoot at the wedding, which was due in a day. Can you take a flight? Of course, I said. I transferred my shoot in Moscow to another photographer, and the next day I booked the flight, and at 3 p.m. I was on a plane. Before now, when I asked people where did you find me, they said that they did through a search engine, but they often say they found me on Instagram. Specialized wedding sites with catalogs of photographers worked for me only a few times. I've got no orders from them in 2 years. Often clients write on Instagram or through colleagues. I think you can always recommend a colleague if you have the same price and style. Guys who said this do something terrible, so I haven't been giving consent to this lately. Although, if I see that the site is cool, the couple is interesting, and I want to shoot them, then I can write to them myself. I tell them that I want to shoot them for my portfolio, especially if it's April or October, and I do it for free, without obligations. I usually take one such shoot a year for fun or something like that. I had a cool shoot last year. I'm still happy with the result, but I didn't for so long. Without a contract, you'd usually go to the event, shoot as you want, and give as you wish to. Customers typically like everything because they can't afford a typical wedding. I usually take the ones I want to use. Sometimes I don't like the person who orders the shooting, and I feel this happens to everyone. Thankfully, I rarely have to do this since most people come to me with similar thoughts and styles. I feel quite comfortable spending the day with such people. Sometimes I understand I won't get on well with the person. Then I notice this, I usually say I'm busy or I can't, or I send the client to a free colleague who is available to work. I did this just once this year, and it was not a shooting but printing a photo book. Ideally, it would be best if you look for a photographer after you have decided the style of the wedding, the costume and decorations. There are often situations where people are looking for a photographer they like, but they don't match the style of the wedding. On the contrary, though, you can first find what photographer likes to avoid the mismatch of interests. Why not? The important thing is to understand the different styles. There is natural shooting, but there is also shooting with more fashion, a lot of lights and sparkles. If you like one thing, you don't have to choose the photographer who has something completely different. It will help you if you watch episodes from wedding that suit you and style. Again, I would like to invite a photographer I know personally and with whom I have previously done a test shoot, such as love story portrait. I advise you to go for a love story shoot first, shoot and understand what it is. Many clients are now asking for a coffee treat, but it's not suitable for every wedding. You shoot a cheerful bride where the wedding is decorated in bright colors, and then clients ask you to paint over everything. I often announce to know the reaction. When I announce, I do my processing and ask the bride and groom's opinion. Sometimes they say, we want it softer or brighter at the same time, although they mostly say that they would like everything. People do not understand what they want sometimes and how it would look in photographs. A girl once told me, I don't want the photo to be blurry, but on the contrary, I want everything to be in focus and clear. She has seen enough of modern photographs. With some people, you want to take a photo with shoes in the frame and a blurred background. With other people, on the contrary, you want to make it classic. It depends solely on the individual. The most touching moment for me is when lovers vow to each other from their hearts, which is not commonplace. I love it when people tell funny stories about how they, for example, stole corn in the field or had oranges for breakfast. I like personal, touching things, and I don't mean crying, but I often think about how nice it will be to shoot them. I think about how they love each other and how happy they are. There is still a touching moment in the end of the wedding ceremony when the newlyweds take the floor. Newlyweds often acknowledge contractors and have the same great feeling about this. How nice it is when they say thank you to each other. There are space, light, and happiness. I think love is unconditional. If I love a man, then I love him. I can't explain the reason, and my work is the same for me. I love it because I can't do anything without it. I sometimes feel tired and unable to work, but when I start shooting, I feel like doing forever. It is unconditional love for the sake of it.